Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever found yourself wide awake in the early hours of the morning between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., staring at the ceiling, restless, alert, and not sure why you can't go back to sleep? Have you ever wondered why you suddenly awaken between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., eyes wide open while the rest of the world sleeps? There's a stillness in the air, a hush that settles over everything. The world is silent, but your spirit is not. You lie there, not fully understanding why you're awake at such an hour, but sensing deep down that this moment is sacred. It is not random, it is not just restlessness. It is a divine appointment, because God doesn't wake you up to inconvenience you. He wakes you up to call you. These early morning hours are the most unguarded moments of the human soul. No phone calls, no meetings, no distractions. It is in these hours that heaven presses into the earth, and God presses into your heart. It is in these moments that God calls his people, not the many, not the crowd, but the one. He calls you, and he calls you, not simply to awaken, but to intercede. This is a call to prayer, and not just prayer as we know it, routine, convenient, neatly scheduled between coffee and work. No, this is a call to the altar of the night, when the veil is thin and the battle is real. In these hours, God may be waking you because someone somewhere needs your voice. Someone is in danger. Someone is on the brink. Someone's life is hanging in the balance, and heaven is looking for one person willing to stand in the gap. Could that person be you? In the book of Ezekiel, the Lord said, "I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land." And I tell you, the same call still echoes through time. Heaven still searches. The eyes of the Lord roam to and fro throughout the earth, seeking a heart that is fully his, a heart that will wake when he calls, and speak when he prompts. What if you are awake because the Spirit of God has stirred you to intercede for your family, for your children, your spouse, or your community? What if in those hours your prayers become the shield that holds back the flood? What if the breakthrough you've been waiting for isn't waiting for morning, it's waiting for your voice in the night? Think about Paul and Silas. In the depths of the prison, in the dark of night, they prayed. They didn't wait for daylight to call on God. And what happened? The earth shook, the chains fell, and the doors opened. Sometimes the prison doesn't break open until you pray at midnight. Sometimes deliverance doesn't come in the light of day, it comes in the surrender of night. Now maybe you're saying, but I don't know what to pray. That's okay. You don't need a script. You just need surrender. Open your heart. Whisper his name. The Holy Spirit himself will intercede with groanings too deep for words. What matters is not how eloquent you are, but that you're available. This is the kind of prayer that shifts atmosphere, not soft, sleepy whispers, but the prayer of one who has been awakened by heaven and dares to cry out in the stillness. The kind of prayer that lifts up a name, a nation, a need, and does not let go until something moves. This is not quiet time, this is warfare time. When God wakes you up in these hours, he is inviting you into the holy work of intercession. You may not see the results immediately, you may never know what your prayers prevented or released. But in the courts of heaven your voice matters, your watch matters, and heaven remembers. Think about Abraham. When judgment was coming upon Sodom, God didn't hide it, he brought it to Abraham in the quiet of day. But what if he had done it at night? Would Abraham have said, "Let me sleep"? Or would he have risen to plead for mercy? I believe he would have stood in that place of intercession, and so should we. When you wake up in the night, it may feel like a disturbance, but what if it's a summons? What if the Lord is knocking at your door, not your physical door, but the door of your spirit, asking, "Will you rise and meet with me?" The early hours are a test of hunger, of willingness, of obedience. Not everyone will say yes, but those who do find themselves drawn into the very heartbeat of God. And here is a mystery. Sometimes the prayer God asks of you in the dark isn't for someone else, it's for you. Maybe he's calling you to awaken, not just your body but your soul. Maybe he's calling you to weep over the things you've become numb to, or to speak life into dry bones in your own house. Maybe he wants to tell you something that can only be heard when everything else is silent. So the next time you find yourself staring at the clock at 3:17 a.m., don't groan. Listen, don't roll over, rise up. Don't say, "Why now?" Say, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." Because this is not a disruption, this is a visitation. The night is not just a time of rest, it is a time of revelation. It is a time of warfare. it is a time of breakthrough. And for those willing to answer the call, it is a time of divine intimacy with the one who never sleeps. So if you are awake, pray. If you are stirred, don't ignore it. Don't silence the voice. Don't push aside the nudge. Because your prayer may be the very thing that moves the hand of God. And what begins in the dark may be the key to what unfolds in the light. God bless you. There's something about the night when the noise of the world fades, and all that remains is the stillness. No traffic outside, no voices, no distractions, just silence. And in that silence, God speaks. If He's waking you between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., He may not be calling you to action. He may be calling you to attention, because in those quiet, undisturbed hours He reveals what often cannot be heard in the noise of the day. Sometimes it's not the external noise that keeps us from hearing God. It's the internal. Our minds are crowded with thoughts, our days packed with tasks, our hearts preoccupied with responsibilities, fears and ambitions. And yet God still speaks. He doesn't shout. He doesn't compete with the chaos. He waits, and when the noise dies down, when the world is asleep, He whispers. It's in that whisper, in the calm of those early hours, that you may find the answer you've been searching for, the direction you've been pleading for, the clarity that's escaped you. Because revelation rarely comes when you're rushing. It comes when you're still, and so God wakes you, not to punish your sleep, but to position your spirit, to bring you to a place where you can finally hear Him. He wakes you when the noise is gone, when your soul is most open, when your defenses are down and your heart is exposed. Why? Because He wants to speak to you, and not just speak but reveal. There are things that God wants to show you that are too holy, too weighty, too deep to be delivered in the middle of your distractions. Some of the greatest truths of your life, your purpose, your calling, your future, He reserves for the secret place. And that place is often found not in the light of day, but in the watch of the night. It's no accident that throughout Scripture God speaks to people in the night. To Samuel He called in the silence. To Jacob, He appeared in a dream. To Joseph, He gave instructions and warnings that would alter the course of history. It was during the night that visions came to Daniel, and mysteries were revealed. When the world is sleeping, heaven is speaking. So if He wakes you, He may be trying to reveal something that your soul needs to know. Maybe He wants to uncover what's hidden in your heart. Maybe He wants to align you with His will, or correct your path before the wrong steps are taken. Maybe there's a secret place He wants to take you, a deeper place, where your surface-level faith can't go. And here's the mystery. Sometimes God won't speak until you respond. He knocks, but He won't force the door open. He calls, but He waits to see if you will say, "Yes, Lord, I'm listening." So you're lying there at 3:42 a.m., and your flesh says go back to sleep, but your spirit feels a tug. That's not just insomnia. That's an invitation. Because He doesn't just reveal information, He reveals Himself. And those early hours become not just moments of revelation, but of intimacy. They become the secret meetings between Creator and created, Father and child, where you begin to hear His voice, not as a distant echo, but as a near and present whisper. And what He reveals may not always be what you expect. Sometimes He reveals your assignment. Other times He reveals your condition. He may show you something you need to surrender. He may bring to mind a person you need to forgive, or a pattern you need to break. He may give you a glimpse of what's ahead, or a warning of what to avoid. But in all of it, He's not trying to burden you. He's trying to bless you. He's trying to prepare you, to protect you, to lead you into what He has ordained for you before the foundation of the world. And to do that He must sometimes interrupt your comfort, so He can realign your course. This is not about being mystical, it's about being sensitive. Sensitive to the voice of the one who knows you better than you know yourself. The one who holds your future, your purpose, your next step in His hands. And He's not hiding it, He's revealing it. But you must be willing to wake. You must be willing to listen. How many of us miss divine revelation, simply because we silence the alarm of the Spirit? We hit the spiritual snooze button, rolled over and told God, maybe later. But later doesn't always come, and what was meant to be revealed in the night gets buried under the noise of the day. The truth is, some of your greatest breakthroughs will not come when you're standing on a stage or sitting in a pew. They'll come in your bedroom at 4:13 a.m., when no one else sees, when no one else knows. That's where God will meet you. That's where secrets are shared, and destinies are whispered. It is written, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and I will tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." But to hear the unsearchable, you must be willing to seek, when it's inconvenient, to listen when the world sleeps, to rise when others rest. And I ask you now, what if the very thing you've been asking God to reveal, He already tried to reveal, but you slept through it? There is a time and a season for every purpose under heaven. And sometimes that season begins in the night, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., when the voice of God pierces the silence and speaks life into your spirit. So if He wakes you, don't miss it, don't roll over, don't dismiss it, don't silence the whisper. Sit up, be still, listen, because the Creator of the universe has chosen that moment, that hour, that window of time, to speak to you. There are moments in your life when God doesn't just want to visit you. He wants to cleanse you. He wants to reach into the very core of who you are and remove what has weighed you down, bound you up, or held you back for far too long. And sometimes that work doesn't happen in the sunlight. It doesn't happen when you're surrounded by others or moving through the motions of your daily routine. It happens in the dark. It happens between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. when He wakes you. Not because He's trying to disturb your rest, but because He's trying to heal your soul. You may be waking in these early hours because something deep inside you is crying out, something that your mind can't name but your spirit recognizes. There may be pain that has gone unspoken, bitterness that's taken root, fear that has lingered, or sin that has not yet been surrendered. And God, in His mercy, chooses the silence of the night to deal with what you've been avoiding in the noise of the day. In the darkness, when no one else is around, the masks come off. The distractions are gone. You're no longer playing a role, you're just you. And that's when God begins His work. Not the kind of work that's seen or applauded, but the deep internal work that changes you forever. He begins to stir things that you've buried. Things that were pushed down because they were too painful. Things you thought you had moved on from, but that still linger like a shadow over your soul. And He brings them into the light, not to shame you, but to free you. Because what God exposes, He intends to heal. What He reveals, He intends to redeem. He doesn't uncover wounds to leave them raw. He uncovers them so He can pour in His oil, bind them up, and make you whole again. But that process often begins in the stillness of night. When you're lying awake and you feel something rising inside you, grief, guilt, regret, or maybe even a sense of conviction, don't push it away. That may be the Spirit of God doing surgery on your heart. There are chains that have wrapped themselves around your life that won't break in the daylight. They'll only break when you bring them before God in the secret hour. There are lies you've believed about who you are, about your worth, about your past, that only get silenced when you dare to rise in the darkness and say, God, I'm ready. I don't want to carry this anymore. It may be unforgiveness. It may be pride. It may be fear. Or it may be something even deeper, something generational, something spiritual, something that's passed from one season to another, holding you captive without you even realizing it. And God says enough. So He wakes you up, not to torment you, but to liberate you. Think of Jacob. It was in the night that he wrestled with God. It wasn't in the comfort of his camp. It wasn't in the company of his family. It was when he was alone in the dark that the struggle happened and the transformation. He wrestled until the breaking of day, and by the end of it, he walked away with a limp, a blessing, and a new name. That is the power of what happens when God meets you in the night. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs don't come in a moment of joy. They come through tears, through repentance, through surrender. And those tears that fall at 4:22 in the morning, they are not wasted. They are collected in the hands of a God who sees every cry, every plea, every whispered confession. You may not even have the words, but He knows. And sometimes He wakes you up not so you can speak, but so you can weep, so your soul can release what it's carried for too long. And here's the mystery. That kind of cleansing doesn't leave you empty. It leaves you full, full of peace, full of clarity, full of freedom. When God removes the weight, He replaces it with His presence. When He breaks the chains, He clothes you with righteousness. He takes off the garment of heaviness and gives you the garment of praise. It's not always pretty. Sometimes the night becomes a battlefield, but it's in those battles that strongholds fall, that addictions are confronted, that identities are restored. And though you may be tired, though you may feel weak, something is happening in the spirit. Heaven is moving. Chains are falling. The enemy is losing because one person chose to rise in the night and say, God, do what you must in me. The truth is, there are things in you that the enemy doesn't want exposed, because the moment they're brought into the light, they lose their power. The moment you say, God, take this, The enemy's grip is broken. And what he used to torment you, God will use to transform you. So if God is waking you in these hours, don't resent it. Rejoice. Because he's not trying to harm you. He's trying to heal you. And what he does in you now will prepare you for what's coming next. You can't carry old chains into a new season. You can't step into your calling while dragging the baggage of your past. And so in his mercy he says, let's deal with this now. This is your cleansing, your refining, your release. It may not feel easy, but it is necessary. And when the morning light comes, you won't just be tired, you'll be changed. You'll walk differently, think differently, live differently, because you allowed God to do in the dark what only he could do. So if you wake in the night and feel his presence stirring, don't turn away. Don't bury it. Don't silence the cry. Let the cleansing begin. Let the chains fall. Let the tears come. Because what God starts in the dark will be revealed in the light, and it will be glory. There's something sacred that happens when God wakes you up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Yes, it can be a time to intercede. Yes, it can be a time when he reveals what has been hidden. Yes, it can be a time of deep cleansing, where he draws the poison out of your soul like a skilled surgeon. But there's also something else, something just as profound. It's an invitation, not to do but simply to be with him, to dwell, to rest in his presence, to worship, to sit in the silence, not seeking anything in particular but seeking him. You see, there are times when God doesn't wake you up because of something urgent. He wakes you simply because he misses you. Not because he needs you to fix something or to break through in prayer, or to receive some vision, but because he delights in you, because he wants communion. And in the busyness of your life he finally finds a window when everything is still, and he whispers, come. When was the last time you sat with God not to ask for something but just to enjoy him? Not to rush through a list, not to check off a spiritual box, but just to be in awe of who he is. That's what the night hours can become. A quiet sanctuary, a holy chamber where time seems to stop, and the only thing that matters is that the creator of the universe is near, and he is calling your name. In the stillness of night, there's an intimacy that can't be manufactured during the noise of the day. You're not distracted, you're not driven, you're not performing, you're just open, and sometimes that's all he's waiting for. Because when you dwell in his presence, things shift. You may not even notice it at first, but slowly the atmosphere around your heart changes. Peace begins to flow like a river. Fear begins to break off. Joy rises like a dawn. It's not always about what you feel, it's about what he's doing deep inside of you simply because you showed up. David said in the watches of the night, I meditate on you. The night was not an inconvenience to him, it was a gift, a time set apart, a time to remember who God is, a time to recount his faithfulness, to rest in his strength, to drink deeply of his spirit. Sometimes the most powerful worship happens not in a crowded room with lights and music, but in the quiet hours when no one sees, when your voice trembles with honesty and your heart beats in rhythm with his. There is a beauty in worshiping in the dark, because it's not based on feeling, it's based on love. It's not about what God will do for you, it's about who he is to you. And when you begin to worship in the night, you align your heart with heaven in a way that transforms you. You begin to realize that God is not just your provider, your defender, your guide. He is your beloved. He is your portion. He is enough. Sometimes God wakes you up, not to talk about your future, not to revisit your past, but simply to remind you that he's with you now, in this moment. That's enough. Maybe he wants to whisper something into your spirit that no one else would understand. Maybe he wants to meet you in the stillness with a love so overwhelming it silences every fear. Maybe he wants to walk with you in the garden of the night like he once walked with Adam in the cool of the day. Do you know that kind of love? A love that doesn't demand anything from you but your presence. That's what God offers in those hours. A love that's not transactional, it's transformational. He's not calling you to be useful in the moment. He's calling you to be available, to be with him. And when you learn to dwell, really dwell, something happens. You become more sensitive to his voice, more rooted in his truth, more anchored in his peace. You begin to carry his presence into the rest of your day, not just on the outside but within. Moses said, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. That kind of hunger for the presence of God doesn't come from public gathering. It comes from private moments. It comes from knowing what it means to sit at his feet when no one else sees. It comes from rising when everything in you wants to sleep, and saying, Lord, I'm here, not because I need anything, just because I love you. And yes, there are times when the Spirit intercedes. Yes, there are times when warfare rages. Yes, there are times when tears fall. But there are also times when you are simply still, and you hear His heartbeat, and you know that this is the most important place in the universe right here, right now, with Him. That's why God may be waking you. Not because there's something wrong, but because everything He wants to do in your life starts here, in His presence, in communion, in surrender, in love. You may not understand it fully, you may not feel worthy of it, but God is not calling you because you're perfect. He's calling you because you're His. And sometimes He just wants to remind you of that truth. So the next time you open your eyes in the stillness of the night, and everything around you is silent, and you feel that gentle stirring in your spirit, don't miss it. Don't rush past, don't silence it, because in that moment, God may not be asking for your hands or your voice. He may simply be asking for your heart, and that changes everything.